Hello, welcome to the module titled Healthy City and Climate Change, the contribute of environmental design approach. First of all, it is essential to share the definition and the contents of the new two keywords of this module, climate change and environmental design. You already learned the definition of healthy city. So, what is climate change? The Earth's climate has changed throughout history. Just in the last 650,000 years, there have been 7 cycles of glacial advance and retreat. With the abrupt end of the last ice age, about 11,700 years ago, marking the beginning of the modern climate era and human civilization. The current warming trend is significant because most of it results from human activity, which is unprecedented since the mid-20th century and proceeds at a special rate over decades to millennia. And what is environmental design? Environmental design is the process of addressing surrounding environmental parameters when devising plans, programs, policies, buildings, or products. Environmental design seeks to create spaces that will enhance the natural, social, cultural, and physical environment and reduce human activity's impact. It attempts to use the natural characteristics of the local climate environment, like sun, wind, water, land, soil, to inform the design of communities and buildings to minimize use and dependency on consumptive non-renewable energy sources. Cities are experiencing and causing multiple impacts from climate change, and they will need to cope with and adapt to this challenge. An environmental design approach to rethinking cities, districts, and buildings can reduce future impacts of climate change, manage the actual effects of climate change, and reduce their impact on citizens' health. Let's try to give an example. The heat urban island effect, caused by the actual way to build and manage cities, is increased by climate change. Reducing, with environmental design strategies, the heat urban island effect at the local level contributes to fighting climate change on the global scale. So, how to reduce the heat urban island that is unhealthy for the elderly and people with chronic cardiovascular and respiratory disease? Using environmental approach to design innovative green, vegetation and blue water infrastructure, to design and work in cities to improve microclimate of public spaces and to design net zero energy buildings. We can enhance livability, well-being and health through the environmental design of neighborhoods and buildings, and these are the most important environmental design goals that an architect must try to achieve during the design, construction and management processes. These goals are as follows. 1. Reduce the consumption of natural resources. 2. Reduce waste production. 3. Enhance the environmental quality of the settlements. 4. Enhance the environmental quality of the buildings. And 5. Reduce environmental costs of management. So, environmental design is a method to develop a project based on the analysis and the critical evaluation of the climate factors, such as wind, sun, temperature, humidity, geographical factors as geology, geomorphology, water networks, and anthropic factors as character of the urban fabrics, history, and local materials, and to define strategic goals that inform the project with the following aims. 1. To enhance the bioclimatic and passive character of buildings and open spaces, reducing energy consumption. 2. To use in a conscious way construction technology also looking to the life cycle. We can use an environmental design approach at the urban scale, at the settlement or district scale, and the building scale. Now, I will show you what means environmental design approach to urban areas and architecture through a brief description of the multidisciplinary project of the University Biomedical Campus Masterplan International Design Competition for the development of the so-called UCBM located in Rome, Italy. The case study described is the UCBM Masterplan International Design Competition experience, conducted by Labic Studio and the Landscape Design Studio Topotech 1, supported by Systematica for Mobility and by me to define environmental sustainability strategies and the verification of the environmental performance of outdoor spaces. In 2019, the team won the International Invitation Only competition, promoted by Campus Biomedico SPM, and the assignee of the project to design the settlement with an implementation plan till 2045. The University Biomedical Campus is located directly outside the limits of Rome. The project addresses the theme of the design of outdoor public spaces as a way to define a system of places which, in the contemporary city, in addition to interacting with the built fabric in terms of mutual microclimatic feedback, also configures a support infrastructure for the efficient use of material and intangible resources on a settlement scale. An adaptive infrastructure which integrates its network for the collection and distribution of the flows of energy, water, materials that pass through the settlement itself and must be supplied, balanced and dynamically disposed of. The environmental design approach was structured starting from two strategic principles from an environmental point of view. The first principle concerned the definition of the methods of sustainable management of environmental loads to maximize resource efficiency. The second principle concerns the achievement of high environmental quality of buildings and open spaces through careful verification and control of the campus spatial, vegetational, and material structures. The master plan layout follows with a grid system the optimal orientation according to the local condition of sunshine and ventilation. In consideration of the project setup requirements, the main microclimatic characteristics of the area were verified to define the appropriate mitigation measures for any environmental discomfort caused by climatic peaks in outdoor spaces. At the same time, the definition of the building typologies took place with particular attention to their solar orientation. The widespread presence of courtyards, porches, atria, brise-soleil, while configuring the architectures, allows the implementation of passive strategies to increase environmental comfort indoor and outdoor and to reduce energy needs. Moreover, the generous indoor spaces of the building and their very flexible layout guarantee a high potential for adaptability and extension of buildings' life cycle, together with the technologies and construction materials chosen to maximize durability and maintenance. The soil use of the surrounding includes arable and woodland fields and farms that will provide the biomass arising from pruning and similar activities to be collected and managed for energy purposes inside the campus itself. The master plan grid also defines the urban green path, the tree position and vegetation for the green mitigation of the environmental comfort on pedestrian streets, plazas and courtyards. The water channels network will distribute and filter the rainwater that will exceed the single building's storage capacity and/or water needs. This water will help to feed the pond and the other artificial basins to be created in the so-called water plazas, public squares able to host events. We designed a network of constructed wetlands in the form of channels for the treatment of stormwater collected from the large roofs of the buildings, as well as from paved plazas. This collection and natural filtering network will feed the pond. That is the key element of the campus landscape project. The strategy project redefines the management of energy flows in the transition from fossil to renewable sources. The strategy's effectiveness will be evaluated in the transposition of the management phase with the responsibility of the community of the UCBM, according to the new role of prosumer and according to the interpretation of the active user as the first responsible of the environmental energy impact. In the future, the new campus will monitor its energy production level and it will show how and when to manage active or passive processes. The community campus becomes a prosumer. The energy strategy promotes a new vision towards 2045, zero carbon and zero energy campus. Works from the first phase with efficient system that can be implemented within a global strategy. Smart microgrid will allow to manage the energy flows with the flexibility required by the development steps of the master plan. The energy management strategy is based on some fundamental steps: reducing the demand by defining the project's environmental and bioclimatic characteristics, then moving on to the efficient integration of the active components up to the effective role of the network. Universities are similar to small towns because of their large size, large population, and various complex activities taking place on campuses. Universities not only need to maintain an appropriate physical infrastructure, but they also require services like those in small towns, including accommodation, transport, retail, leisure, and, of course, solid waste management. Reduce, reuse, and recycle, the so-called 3R waste management initiatives, are the key aspects of environmental sustainability in a campus community. A comprehensive solid waste management program is, in fact, one of the greatest challenges to achieving campus sustainability. In this module, we discussed and showed an example of how environmental design process can address surrounding environmental parameters in creating spaces that enhance the natural, social, cultural, and physical environment to reduce the impact of human activities. Thank you for attending this module. Grazie per aver seguito questo modulo.